Alright, King Tinex here, back with another video. This is the fourth time I'm trying to do this, and my goodness, this is irritating because it is so hard to think about this character. What if Deku was Deadshot? This is going to be the 400 subscriber special. Enough said. Oh my gosh, I hate myself. But basically, like, you guys probably already noticed that this character looks pretty interesting. The reason for this is because of the fact that Deadshot is an assassin and Deku is a hero, at least in canon. You guys are probably wondering, okay, King Tynex, how are you going to do this now? How are you going to make Deku become an assassin? Fairly simple, really. I'm going to just change it up here. Like, I tried, like, in the last couple of recordings, I tried to give Azuku a quirk, but it just never flowed out right for some reason. Probably because I just want him to at least be quirkless and this part, and then have you guys figure out what quirk I should give him later on or something. So yeah, that's how I'm going to do it. When Deku was first diagnosed as quirkless, Deku's dreams are just crushed from there on. His mother notices just how devastated Azuku is. He ends up falling into a bit of a depressed state, honestly. She hates to see her baby boy like that. It's it's just very harmful. Not harmful. That's not the right word. It's very painful for her to see Azuku like this. Uh, she she looks at the pictures and she sees Azuku's bright smile from all the way up until just that very day when it was Azuku's fourth birthday and he was diagnosed as quirkless. She sighed and then looked up to Azuku's father, the man that's never around, and for a good reason too. These two were actually divorced. The reason being is because she thought that Deku's dad, Hisashi, was just like a real estate agent or like something. He never really mentioned his job too much, but he seemed to have a really good paying job. And she would question him sometimes, and he would just say, "Oh, it's nothing much, just a regular sort of job." This was when they were just starting in their relationship, but as the years would go by, Inco would try and ask him more about his job, try and get more details on it, because she's wondering, all right, like, what's up with his job? Why doesn't he tell me much about it? And how did he get paid so much? They live pretty moderately, honestly. Inco doesn't live in an apartment in this timeline. They live in a full-on house. But Deku's dad, Hisashi, he would continuously try and avoid the question. Eventually, she ended up finding out that he was an assassin. When she found this out, she told him to quit doing what he's doing. It's extremely bad, honestly. It's an extremely bad job, to be honest, because of the different amounts of people out there. Like, with his name being out there and everything, that could provide a very big danger, a very serious danger to their family. Hisashi said he would, but he never did. He kept on assassinating people. It paid the bills, that's what he would say. When Inku found out that Hisashi was still going on with this assassination stuff, she ended up cutting all ties with him altogether. But Inko was pregnant at the time. When she ended up cutting all ties with him, this actually caused him to never be able to meet his son, Azuku. She was looking back at the old pictures, and she saw herself pregnant with Azuku, and Hisashi holding her stomach, hold holding like holding the womb. I don't know what to call it. I'm pretty sure you guys can guess who didn't do well in biology. Not me, honestly. I actually did pretty well. But basically, like, she's reminiscing on the good old days back before she knew what Hisashi did. And then she looked back at Azuku, who was barely even eating at this point. Like, he was losing a considerable amount of weight as well. He was also coming home with a bunch of injuries as well. A bunch of burn marks and all of that. She would ask him all these questions about what is happening to him. Why are there burn marks? Why are there a bunch of scratches on him? He would always come up with the same excuse. Just fell down the stairs, or he was just playing a little bit and ended up scraping himself. All of that. All these lies. Inko knew that they were lies, but she didn't know what to really say. She looked back at the pictures and realized that Azuku never got to meet his father. And she even remembered him even asking her a couple of times about Hisashi. Like, who was his father? Why did he never seem to be able to ever meet his father in person? She realized that, you know what? In order to make Azuku happy, in order to bring back that little light in her life, he would have to come back into their life. Hisashi would have to end up meeting Azuku. So she ended up calling him up, and they had a little bit of catching up. Once Hisashi heard that, well, Inko was considering bringing him back into her life, and that she wanted him to meet Azuku. He was all ears. He was like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. He was incredibly happy, to be honest. He was so enthusiastic to the point where he was like, alright. He, like, the very next day, like, they were able to schedule an appointment for Azuku to meet his father at the park. Unlike for the very next day. When Inko took him to the park, Azuku was wondering, okay, like, why is she still holding on to me? Why can't I just go and play now? But Inko mentioned that he would be meeting a very important person, someone that he would always ask about. And that's when Azuku meets his father, Hisashi. Hisashi is still looking pretty good. I mean, he's only like, it's only been like a couple years at best since these two had really talked. Inko was really wondering, okay, maybe I should give him a second chance. She was really considering that for a moment until Hisashi was like, alright, so my name is Hisashi. I am your father. And what do I do for a living? You don't need to worry about that. Well, like these two just have like a casual conversation, whereas Azuku carrying on the conversation for the most, asking all these questions, which Hisashi would either avoid or be very vague about, especially when it came on to what they do for a living. And Inko would start to lower her eyes at Hisashi because she remembered, well, what he did, and she started to realize, oh, he never did stop, did he? She sighed, but looking at Izuku's bright-eyed face, she realized that, you know what, let's just have it be like that. Once a week, once a week, you'll be able to see your son. That's what Inko told Hisashi. Hisashi was ecstatic. I mean, can you really blame him? Being able to see his son for the first time in like 4 years, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure a good father would be ecstatic to see them. Knows how I said good father. But yeah, they would spend more time together, and by the time Azuku reached 7, when Hisashi was realizing about his situation being quirkless and all of that, that's when Hisashi decided to put his foot down, and he actually taught Azuku martial arts. Well, more so, he paid for Izuku to learn martial arts. He he signed Izuku up for martial arts. That's what I'm trying to say. And when Izuku was 10 years old, he even brought him to like one of those firing ranges. And that's when Hisashi realized, oh snap, my kid is actually really good at this. That's when the lights started to light up. That's when the light his head. Um, he realized, okay, my kid, he knows martial arts. He's good in hand-to-hand combat, and he knows how to shoot a gun. That's when Isashi realized, okay, with those two things in mind, maybe he could carry on my legacy. When it came on to Hisashi's assassin name, his his code name, he was known as Deadshot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like we all know that his quirk is fire breath, by the way. Excuse me. I'm keeping that. That's something I'm willing to keep. I'm going to say that that is one of Hisashi's specialties. He was able to basically use use his quake to his advantage when it came down to hand combat, because he could at least distract his opponents and get the edge on his opponents by using his fire breath, which wasn't very strong to be honest, in order to at least blind them for a couple seconds, or completely blind them if he really wanted, and then actually defeat them or assassinate them depending on how severe it got. Hisashi was able to do all of this, and then when he looked at Izuku, he realized that, okay, my age is starting to come on to me, and Azuku seems to be like the perfect candidate to be the successor, to be the one to carry on my name as Deadshot. So he made sure to especially train Azuku in marksmanship. He made sure that Azuku's marksmanship was on point, my G. Um, but yeah, that's basically how he did it. Like, he made sure that Azuku rarely ever missed a shot. Whenever Azuku missed a shot, he would actually make make the training gruesomely harder afterwards. He would try and enforce into Azuku's mind that he could never miss a shot. As the years would go by, Azuku would start to develop differently because of that. He and when it came on to his relationship with Bakugo, it was still pretty trash like in canon, but at least here, Azuku was able to defend himself. He was also able to defend some others. He even brought like a BB gun to, well, like a Nerf gun or a BB gun, honestly. He even brought a BB gun to school one day. Well, he brought them a couple times, and he would use them to defend himself against Bakugo. Sure, they may not have been the best, but, well, and they at least provided like some sort of protection against Bakugo, besides just his hands. The teachers would try and confiscate these weapons from Azuku, but Azuku would make his argument saying that these are toy guns for crying out loud. It's not like he actually brought real guns to school. And on top of that, Bakugo has a whole explosion quirk. What Izuku brings is mild in comparison. He needs this in order to defend himself against Bakugo, since the teachers aren't really doing anything to really stop Bakugo's behavior. He even argued this to the principal and higher ups as well. It got so bad to the point where Izuku ended up having to switch schools as well. His father ended up putting him in private school as well, considering, well, he had that type of money. By the time Izuku ends up being 12, though, that's when that's when things are just tough. Oh my goodness, because um, Hisashi ends up suffering from a great injury that ends up hindering his work to the point where, well, he is unable to actually perform his assassinations anymore. When Izuku finds this out, he is at first very concerned for his father and his livelihood, especially with the enemies that he's racked up over the years. But Hisashi tells him not to worry about it until Hisashi ends up meeting up with a couple people who had a bit of a grudge with him, to be honest, due to what he did for a living. I'm going to say that this is when Izuku was 14, by the way. When Izuku turned 14, his father ended up having this very bad interaction with these couple of thugs. And this is where feces hits the fan, because they actually gunned down Hisashi. Azuku saw all of it from behind, from behind the wall. He was he saw the whole interaction. He ended up grabbing one of his father's weapons and shot down all of the men, who ended up brutally not even brutally injuring at this point. They turned him into Swiss cheese. But yeah, so he put a hole in every single one of these men. That's how I'm going to end it. No, forget it. Nah. What ends up happening afterwards is that when Inko sees what Azuku did, she can't believe what he did and ends up kicking him out of the house. She says that she doesn't want Azuku to take up his father's habits. She doesn't want Azuku to end up like his father. She doesn't want to see Azuku end up like his father, but after what he did there, she can't afford to have him living with her any longer. And Azuku ends up having to fend for himself afterwards. Azuku ends up turning to a life of crime, and he ends up donning his father's mantle, Deadshot, over time. He ends up taking up a couple jobs in order to assassinate a couple people. And throughout this time, he actually makes a pretty hefty amount of money. Enough to actually fend for himself. Enough to actually make a living off of it. And this is basically how I'm going to end off the what if for right now. Azuku is 14 at the beginning of this, but I'm going to say that I'm boosting up everybody's ages a little bit, so that this can be a better story. I'm going to see that, like, for the next part, everybody's going to probably be 17 or 18. And so, yeah, that happens. Also, subscribe to Gratify with us because this guy makes some pretty good content. It's kind of sad how he only has like 30 other subscribers and he has like 30 videos out already. I mean, he even makes his own thumbnails, for goodness sake, and edits his own videos. I mean, like, I don't really do much editing myself, as you guys can clearly tell. Although, like, I have like a good amount of help from other people. And this guy, he does it pretty much by himself, and I applaud him for that, to be honest. That's some serious dedication right there. So subscribe to Gratify with this, at least get him to like 50 subscribers or more. That doesn't sound too hard. Matter of fact, get him to 100 actually. Yeah, let's get this man to 100 subscribers. I think we can do that. Anyways, King Tynex out. By the way, shout out to YT James BTW for the idea of this 400 subscriber special. I had this. He asked me about it like a month ago, and I had this in the back burner of my mind for a while, and that's why I've been waiting for so long. I want to do this. I figured, you know what? For a 400 subscriber special, why not do this? King Tynex out.